is Breastfeeding Awareness Month. So I have 5 kids ranging from the ages 15 to 2. I only was successfully to breastfeed 2 of them on the boob. My last 2, Tati and Elijah. Azalea, I did pump for. I breastfed in the beginning, and I just kept scarring up, and I'll crack and bleed. And so I was just like, this is ridiculous. She's like making me bleed. She's bleeding in her mouth from my blood. It was just disgusting. And so it's like, we can't do that. We have to stop immediately. And so then I just pumped. Shout out to my sister-in-law who let me use her pump for a long time. So with Zay, I pumped it so she got the nutritions. But if you breastfeed, you know that the latching on and their sucking is what helps build your milk supply and build just the connection and everything. It really is the fun things about breastfeeding, you know. So the pumping for Zay, even though I felt like I was giving her what she needed, it just wasn't the connection that I had with the last 2. So my first 2, I couldn't, like Titus. I mean, I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. No, at that time, nobody was even really talking about breastfeeding like that. Because he's 15. My mom didn't breastfeed. She was unsuccessful with all of us. None of us had time for that. So I didn't really have anybody to talk to. So when I had Titus, and my boobs were huge. So on top of him being slightly early, so he wasn't like premature, but he was like borderline premature. He was 3 weeks early, and he was only 6'1". So he was slightly jaundiced when he was born. So he was already like what they consider like a little bit of a, you know, behind, because he came kind of early. But not even that, like he was so small, and my boobs were like literally so big. Like I think a lot of women when they have their first kid, for some reason they carry it in their boobs, you know. And when him being so small, he's just like, I can't even breathe, child. Like I can't survive. I'm not about to suck this. So I tried. I think I did with Titus for a good maybe month, 3 weeks to a month, but I think it was both. Like it was breast milk and formula, but I think I did do about a month. And then with Stasia, I don't know why. So with Anastasia, I can't really remember breastfeeding. I know I tried. I know I always try in hospital. Like I always want to try. I still didn't know much. I knew a little bit more because, you know, you go to the doctors after you have a kid, then you start hearing stuff about breastfeeding. So after I had Titus, I heard, you know, benefits and such about breastfeeding, but I still hadn't had any much experience. I was young and I didn't go to the classes like I should have. You know, they have all kind of classes now, and then they probably have them too, that you can go to that will help you, you know, get the latching and all that stuff going. But I didn't. So I think she might have did it for a few weeks and she was over it. And I didn't know how to keep my milk supply going without, you know, in the middle of them trying to learn how to breastfeed. So once they was like uninterested, it would just stop, and then we're like, well, we're just done, you know. So that's how those 2 work. When with Zay, I guess I was like, you know, I'm a little older now because we waited a few years to have Zay. We planned her. I was determined to try to breastfeed, but I still wasn't making up enough milk. I don't know what it is. Probably the things that I eat, or I just don't, you know, some people make a lot of milk, some people don't. And so I wasn't making a lot of milk, and she wasn't latching on correctly. I wasn't moisturizing myself the way I should. You know, now that I know things, I can look back and see like, okay, this could have helped, that could have helped. So with Zay, it was a lot of things I just didn't do that I should have done. But I did give her breast milk for, I don't know, some months. You know, in every breastfeeding mom knows, unless they like over make milk, you go through this dry spot, and it's hard to, like, for me, the baby is what keeps you to get out that dry spell. Like, your baby ain't interested and you go through that dry spell, you just done. You're gonna have to figure out something else. because you cannot pump that and keep it up, you know. So I think that happened with Zay. Like, she was just like, okay, whatever, I'm over it. With Tati though, first of all, she's my biggest baby. She was 8 pounds 14 ounces. So she started off like, honey, I got to eat. I need to eat all the time, constantly. She still is like that to this day. Like, she does not miss a meal. She's 7 years old, and she eats breakfast, lunch, dinner, and she eats snack in between times. And I love her appetite. I do not say that in a negative sense. I love the way she eats. Like, I wish they all, well, the older kids eat well now, but, you know, I wish all kids ate like she does. But as a nursing baby, she taught me, or she gave me the opportunity to be a breastfeeding mom. She just was all for it. There was, as long as all I had to do was introduce it to her. You know, obviously if I would have gave her a bottle, she would have latched onto that. But I gave her the boob, you know, like told the nurse, you know, nurses are usually really awesome at, like, in the hospital trying to help you out with that stuff. And so I told her, I was like, this is what I want to do. I tried last time, but this will happen. So I told the nurse, like, I had, you know, my boobs getting sore, I was bleeding, I just, whatever, you know, this is ridiculous. So she, you know, she hooked me up with the cream and all that stuff. And she's like, let's just make sure you're getting her boob in her mouth right. And so she taught me, you know, how to do that. Like, just shove the whole boob in there. They'll let go of a little bit and get what they need, but they need more of the around it than anything. But it was all Tati. Like, I give all credit to her. And I don't know how, I mean, she's a baby, but just her knowing that she wants to eat, and me introducing her, this is how you gonna eat. She breastfed herself. She would get that mug in there. She sucked both sides evenly, good amount, kept my flow going, you know. She'll go to sleep to it, wake up to it. She didn't miss the meal. I'll go to work and I'll pump bottles out, and like, I will have to keep up with my bottles because she would go through them. Like, I worked at McDonald's at the time, and I'm in, like, I go to my car or something, I need to pump up these bottles because I cannot fall behind. Like, it was ridiculous. But I loved those times I had with her. Like, as soon as I came home, we laid together and I fed her, you know, and so we had this really close connection early on. So I loved it with her. And then so with her, it was so easy. Like, it literally was easy. We stopped probably about 8 or 9 months, only because she was just done. Like, she started this, she was ending it. Like, at about 9 months, you start giving her food. So she's like, oh, it's about to go down. Like, I want to eat for real. And so she just kind of stopped. I guess if I would have pushed her more, she would have taken it. But I was just like, it's not that big of a deal. That's one thing you got to realize. Like, you can't stress yourself out about it. It's not worth it. It doesn't help. As a matter of fact, it makes things worse. So, and then with Elijah, and I don't know if anybody has boys and girls and they've successfully nursed both, if there's a huge difference between a girl and a boy. I nursed with him, which was awesome. He latched on. He was ready. We did well. I mean, you know, the usual pain in the beginning because everything's super sensitive, but he got a hang of it quickly. But he had, GERD, reflux. I can't remember, gestational reflux or whatever that is. You know, those letters, GERD. He had that. So he was sucking it down, you know, getting a good amount, and literally throwing it back up on me. I mean, it was like hot when he threw it back up, because we're laying together, we're, you know, cuddled together, you know, and he would just throw it back up on me, and it just crushed my spirit. Like, it really broke my heart, because it's emotional to breastfeed. Like, it takes you physically and it takes you emotionally, mentally. Like, you need great support from your family just to be able to breastfeed, because you are being drained. Like, it's literally what it is. And if somebody doesn't understand that, if they're thinking you're just feeding the baby, they don't get it. Like, it's more than that. Like, you are being drained, and you know that they depend on you specifically, like nobody else, for a while, a long time. And especially when they go through batch feedings, where you every hour on the hour they want to feed, or you go somewhere and you're like, I can't go too long because I need to feed him, or I didn't pump enough, or not. Like, it's really stressful if you don't have people supporting you and helping you out. And, and kudos to single moms who breastfeed, and and have multiple kids, because it's a lot. So if you don't have people helping you, or just at least understanding what you're going through, it can be a lot. But anyways, I digress. So Elijah, I got emotional. I was very, very emotional because he couldn't keep it down. And I'm like, I don't want to formula feed him. For one, because the doctor told me, oh, substitute formula, which for one I thought was stupid, because if he's not keeping my breast milk down, why is he going to keep the formula down? Like, I mean, I know they have different types of formula, but that helps. But if anything, breast milk is the most easiest on your stomach above anything else. So I was like, okay, that doesn't sound like you're fixing a problem. It sounds like you're just creating a different problem, because I couldn't keep up with the milk. If you're throwing it up, and then like I gotta wait a while before I got more milk, huh? So now he's hungry, so that they did end up giving me medicine, and I don't remember what they gave me at the time to help with his reflux, and it did help a lot. But the doctor kept, because he wasn't gaining weight. I don't think he lost at all. He was pretty consistently the same weight for like a month in the beginning. He just was not gaining anything, and they freak out about that. Like, that's the biggest thing. Is them gaining weight every week, every month, and which I think is ridiculous. That, I guess, that's a whole nother issue. But anyways, but aside from him having GERD or whatever, I loved breastfeeding. I loved it. I loved how he needed me. I loved how close we were, because me and Titus, even as he was as a child, we weren't that close, and it could just be part of their personalities, but I feel like that nursing, that one-on-one time, that alone, that togetherness, even if you aren't that person, you build that connection, because that's what you're used to, right? You're used to being with somebody all the time, loving. Now, he does not like being alone, so that's another issue in itself, but it's a billion of us here, so he's good. But so with Elijah, I couldn't get him to stop. I could not wean him off for nothing. And I heard people say that, like, the kid be like 2 or 3 years, and they're like, they still nurse only because they just couldn't bring themselves to breaking them off. And at first I thought that was ridiculous. Like, just stop them, like, after they're a certain age. But like, I'm thinking in my head, like, once you've decided, okay, you're old enough, stop them, But I was a fool, because after he was about 1, I'm like, he's walking around, going on, he's eating other things. There's other things we can give him. He's older, he doesn't need to nurse. Well, he was not stopping. He refused to. So I felt, I had to bite my tongue about the thoughts I had. Thankfully, I didn't tell anybody, or I don't know if I talk about people or not, but if I did, I'm sorry, because I could not stop him, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. Like, it broke my heart. I would put him to sleep I would nurse him to sleep, and I was trying to wean him off, because he would go to my boob and nurse. Like, he would get it out and nurse while I'm trying to go to sleep. And my husband's like, I thought you want to stop. You're not making enough to keep it going. So if you want to stop, we need to stick to it, So he slept separately from me for a little while. And then he would ask for it, and I'm like, no, you have, your milk and things like that. So it was a process. When they get older, though, and you nurse, they'll like pull your boob right out. They'll pull you. I mean, it's multiple times I was at Walmart, he'll try to pull it out, and I'm like, yo, like, this is my business. Like, you can't just be showing me out like that. Like, I don't think Todd was ever that demanding, and it's just, and I think it's because he was more nurtured. She was more feeding. I didn't feel like she needed me. She needed to nurse to go to sleep, or she needed to nurse to like calm down, or she, you know, she just like feed me, and I'm a big girl, I like to eat. That was more her thing. And then when she was tired, it helped, but she can go to sleep on her own. She didn't need to nurse. It just helped and made it easier for me. But Elijah, it was a nurturing thing. He needed to feel better. He needed to calm down. If he was frustrated, if he didn't feel well, he would nurse. I want to share my experiences. One big thing is vitamin D is a huge thing that you need to make sure that you are implementing while you nurse, because we don't have that in our milk, or we don't have much of it. I'm not, like I said, I do my best. I'm not gonna keep 100. I do my best to try to do what they say, but I don't always remember. But I know vitamin D is one of the things that you have to add to your diet, and you need to add to the baby's diet if you're breastfeeding or plan to. If you nurse while they sleep, you need to clean their teeth regularly. That was a big mistake I had with Tati, and I messed up her teeth. Thankfully they fall out, but you know, your milk is really, really sweet, and so if you nurse them, it's actually, I think it's worse to nurse them with your boob than it is with a bottle, because your milk is that much sweeter. So you have to wipe their mouth out regularly until they're old enough to brush your teeth, of course. But as a baby, you just need a little warm towel and just wipe it out, you know, as they're sleeping. I do believe, from my experience, that nursing helps with diaper rashes, and it probably depends on what you eat too, but Elijah never had a diaper rash. Not really. Like, it would get slightly red, but that was it. And I use cheap diapers, so because I know some people have issues with that. This is my 5th child. I don't care what you think. So I use, you know, after, I think like the first month or two, I use Love's, just because I feel like they're a little bit better. But then I use the Walmart brand when they get a little older and stuff, and he still never had a diaper rash. So I think nursing probably helps with that, just because you're consistent of what you're putting in your body, and it's not foreign things. It's from my body to his body, which he was in my body, so you know, it's all like the same. That's my perspective. I don't know if it's right. I'm not a doctor, but we went to the zoo, and I sat to myself, you know. I tried to cut myself off. I had a little cover thing, but you know, if you breastfeed, you're gonna lift it up, because you got to see if he doing okay, if you doing okay. But I did it right on at the picnic desk, and the picnic table, and I fed him. And you know, somebody sat close by me, not too close, but they realized what I was doing, and I just kept on my business. Like, I'm not gonna stop feeding them. You know, we're at the zoo. I'm not about to go in the zoo bathroom and feed him. So I just want to share my story, to support Breastfeeding Awareness Month. If anybody has questions, I'll be glad to assist if I can. If anyone wants to share their story, please leave it in the comments. I love hearing about breastfeeding stories. I really am an advocate of breastfeeding. I don't feel like I need to show you a picture of me feeding my son, but know that I did, and I did it a lot, and I did it wherever I had to. You know, I do support all that. Do whatever you have to do to feed him. I just do not think it's necessary for me to show everybody my boob. Yeah, I think it's beautiful regardless. I love the picture where they have the roots, or is it the tree at the boob, and then the roots going to the kid, however the roots, the tree, however they, you know that picture I'm talking about, when they're connected. That's what I think of every time I see those pictures, and I just love it. But that's it. So please leave comments, because I love to read comments, and share your experiences. All right, happy Breastfeeding Awareness Month.